Hey guys, and welcome to another video from the Parrot Bros. Today we're going to be doing a video on running, owning and maintenance costs on an Audi TT 225 Mark 1. Now obviously this applies mainly to all TTs, but we'll do it specifically on the 225 as it's a Quattro. So before we get stuck in, let's jump into the intro. I'd like to start off by thanking Carl at CJ Mechanical for providing us with a list of prices. Now we'll break them down. It'll be into service, repair and maintenance costs. Now Carl, or CJ as known to his friends, is a VAG specialist, Volkswagen Audi performance specialist. He's been in the industry for over 20 years and himself, his personal time, he spends tuning up Audis. Now CJ Mechanical is based in Nottingham. They're very reasonable on pricing, always use good quality parts and all their work is guaranteed. So if you need some work done or you like some of the prices that we're going to discuss in the video, if you pop down into the description below, there'll be a list of his contact information, his Facebook and his Instagram. So be sure to check him out. Right, let's get stuck into maintenance costs now. Before we go any further, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Dominic, and if you'd go into this corner, there'll be a playlist of all the videos we have done on the Audi TT Mark 1. There's over 20 now, and that is how-tos, fixes, and just generally great information. So be sure to check that out, and if you're already a subscriber, welcome back. Right, so here is some of the most common jobs that I have seen either people doing or I've had to do myself, and I thought I'd just give you an idea of breakdown of costs. Now, obviously I've owned my TT over a year, so I know exactly what some of these are. All prices are given today by CJ Mechanical in May 2020 are using genuine or a genuine replacement parts, and I will also deter between the difference of whether it's got parts included or it hasn't got parts included, as things like clutches is up to you what clutch you want to use, whether you want performance or standard. So let's jump into it now. We'll do running first. Now, petrol, they're not bad on fuel. Being the 5-valve, they're quite economical on a run. 6th gear, 70 mile an hour, you'll get a return of 30-35 miles to the gallon, so not bad. Obviously, if you're heavy-footed or use it a lot around town, you've got an intercooler, you've got a big air filter, the likelihood is you probably are right foot heavy, so it is a lot less. However, that is in your ballpark. If you're doing a lot of driving, a lot of commuting, they're not that bad on fuel. For a performance car, they do all right. Tax-wise, a 225 Quattro is about £330 a year road tax in the UK. It's about average for what it is for a sort of a performance coupe hatch. Insurance group 35. I'm over 30 now, so insurance is not so much of an issue, but for the younger drivers, insurance group 35. Now, general bits and bobs will jump into things like tyres, 17s and 18-inch wheels. The tyres aren't too bad. You're looking at £50 to £100 for a good brand name. You shouldn't really see too many bothers unless you've got 9-inch wide, 19-inch wheels, and it might be a little bit more expensive. Right, so let's jump into actual maintenance. Now, we'll start off with a few minor things. So all these things I'm discussing now will include parts. So that's genuine parts. We'll start with a minor service. A minor service is £150. That's generally things like oil and filter, maybe an air filter, and then obviously a good check around the car. Major service, including parts, is £260. A Haldex service, including the parts, is £150. That's your rear four-wheel drive system, which comprises of an oil and filter change, and it's not the easiest thing to get to. Have a little look, see if you think you could do it yourself. It is awfully fiddly. Now, timing belt. This is, I will put the details of how often it should be just here, but I believe it's 5 years or 60 or 70,000 miles, but I'll confirm that in writing on the screen. Now, including genuine parts is about £300, not too bad a job. I wouldn't personally do it myself. I've got mechanical knowledge, but it is really fiddly and it is awfully tight. And when I've gone to other garages in the past with other 1.8 turbos, they always give you that look like, yeah, I don't really fancy doing that. But it's not the quickest of jobs. You can do it yourself if you're mechanically minded. Jump in, have a go. What have you got to lose, eh? But yeah, so CJ Mechanical, £300, including parts for a timing belt service. Oil pickup pipe. So to replace, including parts, so that'll be your sump gasket, oil pickup, gaskets, etc., is £150. Now, this is quite a common thing on the 1.8 turbos. If it's done a lot of miles or it's done a lot of short trips, the oil can get quite thick and it will block up with crud, is probably the best way of explaining it. This is quite a common failure. When I swapped mine out, it was quite bunged up. Wasn't completely blocked, but it was certainly bunged up. So that's a good one. Now, trans service. So this is your transmission, including the fluids, is about £70. It's always worth doing. A lot of people neglect their gearboxes, and their rear-wheel drive systems, etc. And that, obviously, if that goes, that is crazy big money. And the likelihood of you finding a new one is low. Finding a good quality second-hand one is a chance, and then if not, you have to get it rebuilt, and they are very expensive. They're very heavy, and they're not particularly easy to get out. So do bear that in mind. One couple of other things I'll slide into this now. There's a few things that I thought might be helpful to know. Things like your turbo fails. It can be common on a high mileage 1.8 turbo, or just happens to go. If your turbo fails, CJ Mechanical would charge around £200 labour only to swap out a turbo for you. So if your turbo is leaking oil, it's gone, it's chewing up the compressor wheel or whatever the reason is, it's smoking or whatever on boost, £200 labour only to replace that. If you were looking for a software map, so that's a stage one, just a software map, give you an extra sort of 30 or 40 horsepower, which is certainly enjoyable to have. That'll be £200 from CJ Mechanical. Now, we'll move on to a few jobs which are labour only. So, you provide the parts. Just to give you an idea, if you didn't want to do it yourself or if you didn't fancy doing it, front discs and pads, labour only, £40. Rear discs and pads, labour only, £50. Now, I'll cover a couple of little extras. Now, I'm going to be doing a part 2 video covering some of the costs, and I'll break down the costs of buying the parts and obviously getting the labour done as well for things like polybushing subframes, fitting a full exhaust system, coilovers, all of that good stuff. All the modifying stuff we'll cover in a separate video, but I thought I'd throw in a couple of little helpful tips and figures for these. Now, most common ones are fitting lowering springs or coilovers. Labour only is about 150 quid. It takes a couple of hours. Obviously, if you've got some rusty bolts and some old parts, it's not particularly easy to get them off, and the rear springs can be a bit of a pain to get out. Fitting a 3-inch downpipe. If you've ever looked into it or ever looked up or tried to do it, it is tight. The turbo sits near to the bulkhead, which is then covered by the subframe. It is tight as. You've got a couple of options. You can drop the subframe, you could cut the old downpipe out, but obviously if you cut it out, then you've got to put the new one in. CJ Mechanical will charge £150 to swap out the downpipe, which, to be honest, is a very good price. I'd certainly rather pay than do it myself because it is a pain. But yeah, so guys, that is the bulk of the basic stuff. Now, if I haven't covered anything, jump down into the comments below and let me know, and I'll try and cover it on the next video. Now, prices do vary. I actually travel 100 miles to go to CJ Mechanical because he is so affordable. His labour rate is less than half of what my local VAT approved garage that I recommend charge. So for performance stuff, if I'm having a load of work done, like a gearbox, a clutch, or any work that's going to take more than 3 or 4 hours, I'll head up to Carl and get him to do it for me, as it saves me hundreds of pounds. So do bear that in mind. Obviously, other garages elsewhere and mobile guys may be also similarly priced, so do look around for your local guys. But if you're looking for a performance Audi, VW, Mercedes, etc. specialist, have a look at CJ Mechanical in Nottingham. Couldn't recommend them more. Now, one thing I did want to cover before I finish the video is when buying the car, if you haven't already bought a TT and you're looking at this video because you're thinking, well, I might fancy a TT, great cars. Don't be afraid to get on the floor, have a good lay down, have a look underneath, make sure there's no rust, have a look at the front and rear subframes, have a look at the bushes, make sure the bushes are all right because they are an expensive job. Check the clutch, don't be afraid to take it for a drive, go up a big hill, put it in the highest gear you can without stalling. Make sure the clutch doesn't slip. Make sure the pedal feels all right. Check the brakes. There's so many things that could go wrong with these cars. They are 20 years old now, so do bear that in mind. Great cars, but do require the maintenance. That's why I wanted to do a video giving you guys an idea of how much this thing costs, because I want to keep as many as we can on the road. I love them, and I know most of the people watching this video love them. Love to hate them. It's the same thing. But guys, I'd like to thank you for watching. Keep an eye out for part 2, which will be coming in a week or two. I'll try and do every video for TTs on a Sunday. Thanks for watching, guys. That's another video from the Parrot Bros.